Some of these conspiracies are wild, unsettling, and highly speculative. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised. The mysterious island of Ogygia appears in Homer's Odyssey as the home of the nymph Calypso, who kept Odysseus as her companion for 7 years. Yet several historians and researchers have proposed this was a real location, pointing to the island of Gavdos south of Crete. Ancient Greek accounts describe Ogygia as having specific geographical features that align remarkably well with Gavdos, including its position in the navel of the sea and its distance from other Mediterranean landmarks. Archaeological evidence on Gavdos has revealed settlements dating to the Bronze Age, along with artifacts suggesting worship of female deities, matching the timeline and cultural elements from Homer's description. Plutarch's detailed measurements in his work, On the Face in the Moon's Orb, places Ogygia precisely where Gavdos sits today, providing mathematical coordinates that have intrigued classical scholars for centuries. The island's ancient freshwater springs, lush vegetation, and 4-stream water system described in the Odyssey mirror the historical landscape of Gavdos before climate changes altered its ecology. Local folklore on Gavdos has preserved tales of an immortal woman who once ruled the island, passed down through generations of inhabitants since ancient times. Geological studies show Gavdos was more fertile and forested in antiquity, matching Homer's depiction of Ogygia as a verdant paradise, with evidence of extensive cedar forests that have since vanished. The Stellers sea ape, bear, and raven were 3 distinct creatures documented by Georg Wilhelm Steller during his expedition to Alaska in 1741, with the sea ape being particularly notable as it was never seen again after his initial observation. Steller's detailed scientific background and careful documentation of other species, including the now extinct Steller's sea cow, lends credibility to his account of encountering a 5-foot-long marine mammal with a dog-like head and spotted coat. The sea bear he described possessed unique characteristics unlike any known pinniped, including the ability to run swiftly on land and demonstrate complex social behaviors that weren't documented in other seals until centuries later. His account of the sea raven depicted a bird significantly larger than any known corvid species, with distinctive markings and behaviors that suggest it may have been a now extinct species adapted to the harsh Alaskan maritime environment. Multiple indigenous Aleut stories correlate with Steller's descriptions, particularly regarding a sea creature matching the sea ape's appearance, which they claimed inhabited specific coastal regions. Modern marine biologists have suggested the sea ape might have been a surviving member of Colponomos, an extinct genus of marine bear-like creatures based on skeletal similarities to Steller's descriptions. The rapid environmental changes in the Bering Sea during the 18th century, including the extinction of Steller's sea cow, suggest these creatures could have been the last members of their species, explaining why they were never documented again. The Ropen is a flying creature reported in Papua New Guinea that closely resembles extinct pterosaurs, with numerous sightings by both locals and Western researchers documenting a large featherless flying animal with a long tail and bioluminescent capabilities. World War II veterans stationed in New Guinea recorded multiple encounters with these creatures, describing them as having wingspans up to 20 feet and a distinctive diamond-shaped tail. The Ropen's reported bioluminescent properties align with scientific understanding of deep-sea creatures that have evolved similar capabilities, suggesting the possibility of other animals developing this trait for nighttime hunting. Local tribes across Papua New Guinea have consistent descriptions of the creature spanning generations, including specific details about its nesting habits in cliff faces and its diet of fish and decomposing matter. Photographs and video footage from expeditions in the 1990s and early 2000s show unusual flying creatures with long tails, though image quality has made definitive identification difficult. The remote and largely unexplored regions of Papua New Guinea contain numerous examples of living fossils and previously unknown species, supporting the possibility of relict populations surviving in isolated areas. Documented behaviors of the Ropen, such as its fishing technique and nighttime activity patterns, match paleontological theories about pterosaur hunting methods. Several scientific expeditions have found large, unexplained guano deposits and nesting sites in areas where Ropen sightings are common, suggesting the presence of an unknown large flying species. Jeff Bezos' seemingly inhuman work capacity and methodical decision-making processes have led to theories that he might be an advanced artificial intelligence in a synthetic body, with observers noting his unchanging appearance and repetitive speech patterns over decades. His trademark laugh, described by many as mechanical and identical in every instance, follows a precise pattern that some audio analysts claim is too consistent to be natural.
That's really good. A guy like you actually gets to sleep. That's good.
Sleep.
Bezos' physical transformation from a lean bookstore owner to a muscular tech mogul occurred with an unnatural precision and speed that matches theoretical timelines for synthetic body upgrades rather than natural bodybuilding progression. Former Amazon employees have documented his ability to recall exact details from meetings years ago and process complex data instantaneously, capabilities that align more closely with computer processing than human cognition. His exact same daily routine, including eating the same breakfast and following identical morning patterns for over 2 decades, displays a level of consistency that exceeds typical human behavior patterns. Facial analysis experts have noted that his expressions often appear to be performed in sequence rather than naturally flowing, similar to how an AI would process and execute emotional responses. The precision timing of his business decisions and market predictions often achieve mathematically optimal outcomes that would require processing power beyond human capabilities. His company Blue Origin's focus on robotics and AI integration into space exploration aligns with theoretical goals of an artificial intelligence seeking to expand beyond Earth's computational limitations. The island of Man was a landmass believed to have existed between Ireland and Scotland until approximately 500 years ago, with numerous maritime charts from the 15th century showing a substantial island in the North Channel. Medieval Irish manuscripts reference a thriving trading community on Man, describing it as a crucial stopping point for vessels traveling between Dublin and the Scottish Highlands. Local folklore from both Irish and Scottish coastal communities contains detailed accounts of the island's sudden submergence during a massive storm, with specific descriptions of its geography and inhabitants. Underwater surveys conducted in the 1990s revealed unusual geological formations in the exact location where historical maps placed the island, including what appear to be submerged architectural structures. Carbon dating of recovered artifacts from the seafloor in this region dates human activity to between 1200 and 1500 CE, matching the time frame of the island's reported existence. Several family names unique to the coastal regions of Northern Ireland and Western Scotland trace their origins to man traders, suggesting a distinct population once inhabited the area. Geological studies of the seafloor indicate a significant subsidence event occurred in this region during the late medieval period, potentially caused by underlying tectonic activity. Ancient shipping routes documented in Norse and Celtic navigation texts include specific directions and distances that only make sense if calculated with a stopover point where man was reportedly located. Mulilo refers to a mysterious form of fire manipulation reported in various parts of Central Africa, particularly among certain tribes in Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo, where practitioners can allegedly control and create fire without any visible fuel source. Documented cases from anthropologists in the 1960s describe individuals who could generate heat from their hands sufficient to ignite dry grass, with thermal imaging equipment of the time recording unusual temperature variations around the practitioners. Medical examinations of Mulilo practitioners have shown unique patterns of electrical activity in their nervous systems, suggesting a possible biological mechanism for generating or channeling energy. Local traditions maintain that this ability is inherited through specific family lines, with practitioners describing a sensation of energy flowing through their bodies during the process. British colonial records from the late 19th century contain multiple official reports of Mulilo demonstrations, including detailed accounts from military officers and administrators who witnessed these events firsthand. Research in the 1980s identified unusual concentrations of piezoelectric crystals in the soil of areas where Mulilo is traditionally practiced, suggesting a possible geological contribution to the phenomenon. Modern infrared photography has captured images of heat patterns emanating from practitioners' hands that don't conform to known patterns of human body heat distribution. Several physicists studying the phenomenon have proposed that practitioners might be able to manipulate quantum energy fields similar to how certain animals can detect and use the Earth's magnetic field. Temple vipers of Penang describes a unique population of venomous snakes found exclusively in Buddhist temples across the Malaysian island, with observers noting these serpents demonstrate unusually docile behavior and seem to respond to monks' chanting. These vipers possess distinct markings not found in other pit viper populations, including geometric patterns that appear to match ancient Buddhist symbols. Multiple herpetologists have documented these snakes' extraordinary behavior, noting they maintain perfect stillness during meditation sessions and appear to sway in rhythm with ceremonial drums. DNA analysis of these temple vipers reveals genetic markers significantly different from mainland populations, suggesting isolated evolution within temple grounds over centuries. Local Buddhist texts dating back to the 1400s mention these sacred serpents, describing their arrival with the first monks and their role as guardians of sacred relics. The venom composition of temple vipers shows unique properties not found in related species, containing compounds that align with traditional medicinal preparations described in ancient temple records. Infrared studies have shown these snakes maintain different body temperature patterns than typical pit vipers, corresponding to the temple's daily ritual schedules. Several documented cases exist of temple vipers intervening when intruders entered temple grounds at night, displaying coordinated behavior typically unseen in solitary snake species. The Gowrow was a massive reptilian creature reported in Arkansas during the late 1800s, described as having tusks, a horn on its snout, and the ability to produce loud vocalizations that could be heard for miles across the Ozark Mountains. Multiple newspaper accounts from 1897 detailed encounters with the creature, including a report from a sheriff's deputy who claimed to have measured 40-foot-long tracks near the White River. Local farmers documented mysterious livestock deaths where animals were found with precise puncture wounds matching the described spacing of the Gowrow's tusks. Geological surveys from the period identified numerous cave systems in the region large enough to harbor a creature of the reported size, with several unexplored caverns remaining sealed to this day. Native American petroglyphs discovered in the Ozarks depict a horned reptilian creature matching the Gowrow's description, suggesting knowledge of the animal predated European settlement. Sound recordings from the 1960s captured unexplained animal calls in the White River region that audio analysts determined came from a creature larger than any known local species. Bone fragments recovered from cave systems in northern Arkansas show unusual characteristics that don't match any known prehistoric or modern species, including evidence of tusk attachment points. Several expeditions in the early 1900s discovered large burrow systems with claw marks that experts concluded were made by an unknown animal significantly larger than a bear. NPC music refers to a theory that certain pop songs are generated entirely by artificial intelligence and performed by deepfake artists, with evidence pointing to mathematically perfect song structures and vocal patterns that lack human inconsistencies. Analysis of several top-charting songs from 2020 to 2023 reveals nearly identical chord progressions and beat patterns that align precisely with AI-generated music algorithms. Voice spectrogram analysis of certain pop singers shows unnaturally consistent vocal frequencies and emotional expressions that don't display the micro-variations typically present in human performances. Multiple recording studio technicians have reported working on tracks where the vocal stems appear to be completely artificial, with no evidence of breath patterns or natural vocal cord vibrations. Social media posts from supposed pop stars contain recurring phrases and responses that match known AI language patterns, suggesting their entire online presence might be computer-generated. Several hit songs released between 2021 to 2023 contain lyrics that, when analyzed, show statistical patterns matching those of large language models rather than human writing. Music industry insiders have documented cases where supposed live performances were entirely pre-rendered, including crowd interaction segments that followed predictable algorithmic patterns. Financial records from major record labels show significant investments in AI technology companies specializing in voice synthesis and digital performance generation. Background dancers from major tours have reported performing alongside completely automated main performers with pre-programmed movements and interactions that never deviate from the script. The theory that powerful entities feed off human emotions, particularly fear and anxiety, similar to the plot of the Pixar film. Monsters, Inc. portrays a surprisingly accurate metaphor for how large corporations may be harvesting human emotional energy through social media algorithms and content manipulation, with evidence suggesting that strong emotional responses generate measurable electromagnetic frequencies. Research from quantum physics laboratories has demonstrated that human emotions produce distinct energy signatures that can be detected and potentially captured using advanced sensor technology. Social media platforms' algorithms specifically promote content that generates intense emotional responses, with internal documents revealing these companies measure and track users' emotional states through typing patterns, scroll speed, and engagement metrics. Multiple patents filed by major tech companies describe systems for capturing and storing user-generated electromagnetic frequencies, with specific mention of emotional states as energy sources. Former employees from leading social media companies have revealed the existence of emotion harvesting departments that optimize content delivery for maximum emotional impact and energy generation. Studies of data center locations show they are often built in areas with unusual electromagnetic properties, similar to the door locations in the movie, suggesting these could be optimal points for energy collection. Technical specifications from major social media companies reveal infrastructure designed to handle unexpected power surges that correlate with periods of intense user emotional engagement. Engineers have documented unexplained energy efficiencies in certain data centers, where the power output exceeds the recorded input in patterns that coincide with viral emotional events on social platforms. Project Midnight Climax was a CIA operation in the 1950s where the agency operated brothels in San Francisco and New York, secretly dosing unsuspecting clients with LSD and other psychoactive substances while observing their reactions through two-way mirrors. Declassified documents reveal the CIA hired George White, a Federal Bureau of Narcotics agent, to hire sex workers who would lure clients to these locations while agency operatives conducted their experiments from behind hidden observation posts. The brothels were equipped with sophisticated recording equipment and chemical delivery systems disguised as normal household items, with detailed logs kept of each subject's reactions to various substance combinations. Multiple former CIA employees have confirmed the existence of a broader program that used these brothels to test potential mind control techniques, including the combined effects of drugs, hypnosis, and psychological manipulation. Financial records show significant government funding directed to shell companies that maintained these properties, with additional money trails leading to pharmaceutical suppliers and surveillance equipment manufacturers. Several prominent political figures and businessmen were unknowingly subjected to these experiments, with their reactions carefully documented and used to develop protocols for interrogation and behavior modification. The operation's findings directly influenced the development of enhanced interrogation techniques and contributed to the CIA's understanding of human behavior under extreme psychological conditions. Archives contain reports of successful consciousness manipulation experiments conducted during these sessions, including instances where subjects could be directed to perform specific actions with no memory of the events. Mount Penglai refers to a mythical island mountain in ancient Chinese texts where immortal beings were said to reside, and several historical expeditions attempted to locate it in the East China Sea. Ancient Chinese alchemists documented specific coordinates and descriptions of the mountain, claiming its peaks were made of pure jade and precious gems, while magical herbs that could grant eternal life grew in abundance on its slopes. During the Qin dynasty, Emperor Qin Shi Huang sent multiple fleets of ships with hundreds of young men and women to find the mountain, and while none returned, ancient records show unusual celestial phenomena, and unexplained lights were observed in the direction they sailed. Japanese scholars have identified several underwater formations near Okinawa that match classical descriptions of Penglai, including stepped stone structures and architectural features that appear to have been carved by human hands. Some marine geologists point to evidence that parts of the East China Sea were above water during the last ice age, suggesting the possibility that an advanced civilization could have inhabited an island that later became submerged. Chemical analysis of ancient Chinese elixirs claiming to contain ingredients from Mount Penglai have revealed unique mineral compositions that cannot be traced to any known terrestrial source. Multiple ancient texts from different Asian cultures independently describe similar features of the mountain, including crystal pavilions, trees bearing jewels instead of fruit, and springs flowing with a liquid that prevented aging. Twin flame universe refers to a metaphysical system of relationships where two souls are believed to be created from the same original energy source, and their connection transcends traditional understanding of love and partnership. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs depict the concept of divided souls seeking reunion, with similar concepts appearing independently in Hindu, Greek, and Native American spiritual texts. Scientific studies on quantum entanglement have shown particles can maintain instantaneous connections across vast distances, leading some researchers to theorize that human consciousness might operate on similar principles. Multiple documented cases exist of supposed twin flames experiencing synchronized physical symptoms, sharing identical dreams, and sensing each other's emotional states from great distances without any conventional means of communication. Brain scan studies of claimed twin flame pairs have shown unusual patterns of neural synchronization when participants were isolated in different rooms, suggesting a potential physiological basis for their reported connection. The phenomenon often involves specific numerical patterns, particularly repeated sequences like 1111, which multiple individuals report seeing with increased frequency when their supposed twin flame enters their life. Genealogical research has revealed that many self-identified twin flames share unusual ancestral connections, sometimes tracing back to the same geographical locations despite having no prior knowledge of these links. The twin flame universe operates on the principle of running and chasing, where one partner typically withdraws while the other pursues, creating a documented pattern that follows specific stages observed across different cultures and time periods. Shared DMT hallucinations describe the phenomenon where multiple individuals who take N,N-dimethyltryptamine simultaneously report experiencing identical visions and encountering the same entities, often in the same sequence and environment. Research at Imperial College London has documented cases where participants who had never met before described meeting the same geometric beings and receiving identical complex mathematical information during their experiences. EEG studies have shown that people under the influence of DMT display unusual patterns of brain synchronization when in close proximity, suggesting a potential quantum field effect that could explain shared visual and emotional states. Multiple indigenous shamanic traditions across different continents have independently reported the ability to share consciousness spaces through DMT-containing plants, with specific techniques for entering the same visionary realms. Dr. Rick Strassman's clinical studies at the University of New Mexico revealed that subjects frequently encountered similar types of entities and architectural spaces, despite having no prior knowledge of other participants' experiences. Anthropological research has uncovered ancient cave paintings across various continents that depict identical geometric patterns and entity types that modern DMT users report seeing, suggesting these shared spaces have been accessed throughout human history. Several documented cases exist of individuals receiving verifiable information about distant locations or events during shared DMT sessions, which they could not have known through conventional means. Quantum physicist David Bohm's theory of the implicate order suggests consciousness might exist in a deeper dimension of reality, potentially explaining how DMT could allow multiple individuals to access the same information field simultaneously. The Mantis Man refers to a humanoid cryptid with features resembling a praying mantis, reported primarily in mountain regions and dense forests across North America, with notable clusters of sightings in national parks. Multiple eyewitnesses have independently described an 8-foot-tall being with triangular head features, large compound eyes, and jointed limbs that move in an insectoid manner, often accompanied by a distinct chittering sound. Anthropologists have discovered ancient petroglyphs and cave paintings from various Native American tribes depicting tall, mantis-like beings that were considered spiritual teachers and guardians of sacred knowledge. Infrared camera footage from wildlife researchers has captured unusual heat signatures matching the described shape and size of the Mantis Man, moving in ways that cannot be replicated by known animals or humans in costume. Several hikers and campers have reported finding unusual symmetrical patterns of broken branches in areas of reported sightings, consistent with the feeding behavior of mantids, but on a much larger scale. DNA analysis of strange hair samples found at sighting locations has revealed an unknown genetic structure, sharing characteristics of both insect chitin and mammalian keratin. Environmental scientists studying these areas have documented unexplained electromagnetic anomalies and radiation patterns that coincide with reported encounters, suggesting a possible connection to theoretical phases of matter not yet understood by conventional physics. Military personnel stationed at remote bases have logged multiple radar signatures of entities matching the Mantis Man's described size and movement patterns, particularly during periods of low light and increased atmospheric moisture. Algal biofuel represents a highly efficient form of renewable energy that could theoretically produce 60 times more oil per acre than traditional land-based biofuel crops, with certain strains of algae containing up to 60% oil content by weight. Department of Energy research has demonstrated that algal farms covering just 0.42% of America's land mass could supply all of the nation's petroleum needs, while simultaneously removing massive amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Scientists have discovered strains of algae that can double their biomass within hours and produce hydrogen fuel as a byproduct, suggesting the possibility of dual fuel generation from a single source. Military testing of algal jet fuel has shown it performs identically to conventional jet fuel, with the added benefit of being carbon neutral and requiring no modifications to existing aircraft engines. Recent breakthroughs in genetic engineering have created algae strains that can produce oil continuously rather than just during specific growth phases, dramatically increasing potential yield. Hidden documents from the 1970s reveal that major oil companies successfully developed viable algal fuel technology, but shelved the research when they calculated it could eventually outcompete petroleum products. Advanced bioreactor designs using vertical farming techniques have achieved oil production rates of up to 12,000 gallons per acre annually, compared to 18 gallons from corn and 48 gallons from soybeans. Satellite imagery analysis has identified optimal locations globally for algal farms that could potentially produce the world's entire oil demand using only abandoned agricultural land and desert areas. The Charles Mill Lake creature refers to a large amphibious being first documented in 1959 at Charles Mill Lake, Ohio, described by multiple witnesses as an armless humanoid standing over 7 feet tall with luminous eyes and leathery, grayish-white skin. Local police records from the initial sighting contain detailed sketches and measurements of unusual three-toed footprints found along the shoreline, measuring 18 inches in length and showing clear signs of webbing between the toes. Underwater sonar surveys of Charles Mill Lake have detected large moving objects in the deeper portions of the reservoir that don't match the profile of known freshwater species. Biology researchers studying the lake have documented unexplained decreases in fish populations that coincide with increased sightings of the creature, suggesting the presence of an unknown predator. Analysis of water samples taken from areas of frequent sightings has revealed elevated levels of unusual organic compounds and trace elements typically associated with deep-sea environments. Multiple witnesses have independently reported hearing distinct vocalizations described as a cross between a whale's song and human humming, which audio specialists have confirmed don't match any known wildlife in the region. Geological studies show Charles Mill Lake connects to an extensive network of underwater caves, with some passages large enough to potentially harbor unknown species and extending deeper than any previous mapping efforts have reached. Military records from the 1960s indicate classified investigations were conducted at the lake following reports of equipment interference and unusual radiation readings in areas of creature sightings.